It is. Hey, everybody. It is Peter and Sel here from Strong Healthy Women, and we are here with Talking Wellbeing TV, where we share hints, tips, and advice about the foundations of wellbeing. And today's topic is every step the same? Interesting question, don't you think, Sel?
Very interesting question.
Yes, exactly. So we're going to explore that. But before we explore that, I picked out a card for you today. Can you read it? Probably not, because I'm always
No.
blurry on my end. So I'll read it to you. I'll read it to you. Remember, whatever is inside you is greater than any obstacle you may face. And that reminds me of a little quote that I heard from Julie in our Insiders, which was, "We have more willpower than we think we have."
Yes.
And it's so true. When we face something, we think it is like the be all and end all and that we're not going to survive it. Yet we do. We pull something out within ourselves and we work beyond it. So we are stronger than we think we are, and we do have that willpower and those tools inside of us to be able to step over them. We also know when we need help, and we reach out for help as well too. And I think that's really, really important, because there are things that we can't do alone, and that we do have to get somebody on our side to do them. So let's get on to today's topic, which is every step. Is it the same? Well, the answer in short to that is no. Every step is not the same. So one of the challenges that we're putting out in November to our Fit Flexes cell, as you know, is to reach 15,000 steps 3 days a week. Now, the reason that we pick 15,000 steps is that there's been quite a bit of research out of the UK, which shows that 15,000 is the mark to improve your overall health and well-being. So this 10,000 step that we see, that's preset in our devices and everything else to meet, is what we're trying to hit. It's one of the recommendations from the World Health Organization, but it's assuming that we're already healthy and that we're already where we want to be. And for so many of us, we're not where we want to be. We're at some type of point between starting and getting there. And so we want to know how to take those steps forward in order to improve our well-being. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the 10,000 steps, let's backtrack on that. Where did that come from? So the very first pedometer or step counter that was ever created was out of Japan, and it had this Japanese name, which I can't pronounce. And I have enough trouble with English without trying to speak Japanese. And so what happened is, when it was interpreted or translated, it actually meant 10,000. And this is where the 10,000 steps actually came from. So it's just been a number that's been picked. It's like drinking 2 litres of water every day. That's just a number that's been picked. And so for each and every one of us, when it comes to hydration, it's very, very different depending on our lifestyle, where we live, how much exercise we do. The list goes on and on and on. So I often see our ladies say, I hit 25,000 steps today, or I hit 30,000 steps today. But that 30,000 steps, what do you think it consists of?
That's your couple
Any
of
answers there, sir?
Your steps to your toilet, your steps out to the clothesline, your steps out to the dogs, cooking dinner.
Yeah.
Those little things.
Yes. So if we're wearing one of these tracking devices, then it means every single time we move, what's happening is those steps are being tracked. So we might very well hit 10,000 steps, which is fantastic because it means that we have been sitting less and moving more. So that's a bonus. That is absolutely fantastic. But does it mean that we've taken those big steps, those pacey steps, those consistent steps towards improving our health? So have we been out and gone for a walk or a jog or a run that was for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 40 minutes or an hour? So, Sel, do you know how long it takes you how many steps you get done in an hour on average?
Oh, I think in an hour for me, it is around the 8-9 mark.
Yep.
It's around that. I could be wrong, might be a little bit less, but it's around that that it takes me. But going back to that, I just want to go back to that 25,000 steps that you were talking about. Because
yeah, go for it.
Perfect example for that for me was I had organised for my 40th, I think it was my 40th, one birthday, I don't know, they're all gone so quick. And so we went down to the coast for with my family. Mm-hmm. And so all the girls, my sisters and my mum, we decided that we would walk around the shops. So we're walking around the shops, doing the shopping, all that sort of thing. Yeah, that night looked at my Fitbit and I'd done 25,000 steps. Now I can tell you right now that not once during that shopping trip was I out of breath or my heart was racing. So it wasn't, although it was beneficial because I was moving.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
It wasn't getting my heart rate up and it wasn't getting my respiratory system working and I wasn't out of breath and I didn't have a sweat up or anything like that. It's just walking for the day.
Yeah. And look, quite seriously, it was way better than you sitting all day.
Yes.
Drinking cups of tea with your family. They're way better than that. So you were moving. Yeah. So, and that's where all steps are not equal. But when you compare it to what you might currently be doing, to what you are then doing, that could be monumental. That could be well and truly taking you on the way to that better health and fitness because you haven't sat for that whole entire day. You've been moving for that whole entire day.
Yes, yes. Definitely. And this is where you need to see where your starting point is. Where are you at? Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I would say that 8,000, 9,000 steps is around about fairly accurate for you. For me, it's around 7 to 8. And that's because I'm so tall. Not really, but I'm tall. I'm taller than what you are. So I've got a longer reach. So therefore, you need to take more steps to my step that I take. So therefore you will always end up getting more steps in an hour than what I will get in an hour.
Well, my daughter says that I've got little dash hand legs, so I'm just like trying to keep up with everybody.
Yeah. People used to say that about myself and my ex-husband. We'd go out walking after dinner, and he was 6 foot and plus, and so I'm only 5 foot, 4 at a pinch, and like I'd have the arms powering and I'd be walking, keeping up with him. And one day, one of the guys went past one of the footballers, and he said, "I reckon you take 2 steps to one of his," and that was probably true. So, yeah. So again, not all steps are equal. So you brought up a good point there, Sel. So knowing where you're starting is really, really important when it comes to counting your steps. And it's not just the only way of measuring how far you're coming either. So timing it. So how many steps am I going to get out in this, 15-minute window that I have, as an example, is definitely a great way to look at it from a starting perspective, because then what you're doing is you've got a benchmark to start from. So you can then go, okay, well, I hit 4,000 steps. So tomorrow I want to try and hit 4,005. So I want to get 5 more steps in that 15-minute window. So every day I generally look at myself. I've got it set for an hour. I then look at the kilometers that I've done and the steps that I've done, so that I can see where I'm traveling, whether I'm moving faster, whether I'm moving slower. And it's really interesting because it depends on how much energy you have. You sometimes, like for me personally, I sometimes feel like I'm just going at it, but the reality is my energy is not as high as I think it is. So my body is a little bit tired. And when I look at it, that count is down a little bit compared to what it was. Maybe not by much, but it actually shows how sometimes we ignore those little signs where we might be tired and we might need to just allow ourselves to recover a little bit more as well too. And recovery is just as important as exercise, if not as much.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Sal, do you have any words of advice for someone who is starting out and wanting to increase their steps, and how they would go about doing that?
I would suggest increasing your time. So if you've never walked before, start with 20 minutes. And if you do have a step counter, and look, most phones these days have a built-in health app that you can log into, put all your details into, and you can get those steps.
Yes.
And then increase that, even if it's by a minute each day. It might be by 5 minutes each day. And then each day you can track how many steps you're improving as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Very true. And I mean, earlier in the week, we were talking about how walking is a great place to start.
Yes.
Once you're in the routine of walking, your body is going to tell you that you want more and that you need more. So you listen to it, and you then change the way you approach fitness. And one of the things that we did mention earlier over the last, week or so was that we need 3 things in our weekly routine. And they are strength, they are endurance, and they are flexibility. And so for many of us, we think that walking is going to do all of those things. Walking alone is not going to do all those things. You would need to actually change up your walking routine quite dramatically. So as an example, you would need to interval train. So go really quick, then recover, really quick, recover. That's called interval training, to get your endurance, to increase your cardiovascular strength. To get strength in there, you would need to be adding some form of strength training. So as example, you might stop and do squats and push-ups at every power pole. Or you might very much take weights with you. Now, weights can be dangerous because if you happen to drop them, you could do yourself an injury. So resistance bands are probably a better option to use. And also what can happen, so when I've been in training before, I have actually used weights quite heavy weights. I think they were like 12 kilos or something. And I was hiking mountains with those 12 kilos. And let me assure you that when you get to a certain point where you just can't go any further, and you've got to put those 12 kilo weights down, you've got no choice. You've got to keep going with them because you're coming back a different way and you're not going to go past them again. So they're not ideal. So you want to have something that's a little bit easier, that if it is a struggle, that you can actually just throw them in your backpack and keep going. And that brings me to a backpack. A backpack is a great way of increasing strength whilst you're walking as well too. So they're the three components that we need in our week. So we need endurance, we need strength, and we need flexibility. And so, as I said, we honestly believe that walking is a complementary exercise to a good strength and flexibility program.
Yes.
That's just how we roll. Yeah.
Yes.
Because we like to build strength.
That's what we're about. That's what's going to stop you from falling. That's what's going to keep you moving.
Yeah.
Now, if you already do walk and you're thinking, well, how am I going to add, and you're not confident with adding, resistance bands into your walk or anything like that, there's things that you can do. Add hills. Hills are amazing, whether you're going up a hill or whether you're going down a hill. Another challenge you could do to get your endurance in there as well is run up your hill. Do your HIIT session on hills. You might walk up them in a lunge type movement and then run down them. Walk up, lunge, run down them, or run up them and lunge down them.
Yes, yeah. You do have to be very aware. Sorry, Sal, keep going. Yeah.
No, that's okay. And then the other suggestion I was going to say was take it off the paths, take it off the cement and the roads, and take it onto the grass, because the earth or the land, is so uneven most of the time. You're not aware of it, but your body's going into that stabilizing mode where it's stabilizing everything.
Yeah, that's right, which means it's good for core strength as well too. And it helps you improve your balance when you're doing that. I know for me, when I hike, I basically will interval. So I'll pick a point and I'll go, right, I'm going as fast as I can to that tree. And then I'll allow myself to just catch a breath, and then I'll go a bit further. Once I get to the top, I, have a bit of a yoga, a little bit of a meditation, chat to whoever else happens to come up there, if there's somebody there, of course, and then I will run back down.
Yes.
So I can get back down in half the time that it takes of getting up there. And that is because it's downhill and because I'm running. But also what I need to be very conscious of is how unstable that is coming down. Yes. So I have to really, really work on core and balance to get back down there. So,
and you build that leg strength up. I just want to share a little story too. So when I started on my weight loss journey, we would go camping every September, and we'd go up to Inskip, up the north coast.
Oh.
Yeah. And of course it was, afternoon drinks and happy hour with hors d'oeuvres and all that sort of stuff. And when I came back, I'd actually lost 2 kilos. And I absolutely put it down to walking on the soft sand.
Beach.
Yes. It's not the wet sand down near the water. It's that soft sand that you really have to power through to get your legs moving.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so that's always
ladies,
on a weekend, going to the soft sand somewhere.
Totally. You could do that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, have a little bit of a beach walk. Yeah. So there's some interesting pieces of information there, ladies. So is every step the same? The answer is no. Not every person has the same gait, so we all have a different stride about us. So therefore, if even when you're walking with someone who's next to you, might be the same height, your legs might be very much a different length, and so the amount of steps is going to be different. So it's always a good idea not to just rely on the steps that you're taking, but to also have a look at the time that you're going for, as well as the kilometers that you're traveling. So that what you're doing there is you've got 3 different benchmarks to see how you're progressing. And that's what's really important, is to know where you're starting and then how you're going to progress. So one of the things that we did with the ladies in the 28-day transformation is we had them measure body fat, we had them measure measurements, and we had them jump on the scales as well too. So for us girls, we will tend to focus on the scales, the weight and the number. And so what happened was, you know, the girls would have these big decreases in the first week, but in the second week it wouldn't be as much. But they'd go, well, hang on, my measurements have come down a lot more, or my body fat's had that big decline. And so by doing that, they can still see that they're progressing. And that keeps them motivated, because if they were wholly and solely focused on the weight and they only moved 100 or 200 grams, mind you, 100 and 200 grams is worth a celebration, but in our minds we don't think it is. If they only saw that, then they would get disheartened. Whereas when they're seeing different types of measurements, it gives us that resilience, that hope, that stamina that we need to keep going. So it keeps us motivated. And so walking is no different, steps are no different. We want to have those different measurements so that we can continually improve. So ladies, as I mentioned earlier, our challenge for our Fit Flexes in November is to hit 15,000 steps, not incidental steps, structured steps. So steps that you're getting out there and you're doing, let's say, a half an hour of full on, get the heart rate up, and then another half hour. So whatever it takes to get to that 15,000 steps, it might be 2 45-minute walks 3 times a week. So what we're going to do is in our free group, we're going to post that up in our free group as well too. When we get into November, we're going to actually challenge everybody. So not just our Fit Flexes, we're going to put this challenge out for everybody to do, because what we want is for you to finish 2020 strong. 2020 has been a crazy year, and for a lot of us, we've lost the momentum. We've lost, you know, that drive that we may have had. Life changed. We found it too difficult to go with that change, and so therefore we went, okay, it's all too hard. So this is going to be your challenge, that I want you to finish 2020 really, really strong. So if you're not already in that free group, Women Over 50 Get Active and Healthy, please go and join us over there, and we'll give you a little bit of motivation along the way during the month of November. Any final thoughts, Elle?
Sorry, my teenage daughter's just walked in, sorry. Can I just give a tip too, ladies? So when you do start the challenge and you're looking at those 15,000 steps, if you do have a Fitbit or some sort of fitness tracker, look at your steps before you start, so you see what they're at, what they're currently at. So then you can know, you know what it is, or grab your phone, log into that health app. I know the iPhones have one. I know the Samsungs have one. Set it up, and then when you're about to go for your walk, press start and measure your steps that way.
Yes, yeah, totally. Great idea. I mean, yeah, I was thinking that's the obvious, but it's not necessarily the obvious. Yep. So good tip, Sal. Yeah, yeah. So grab your journals out, ladies. If you haven't got a journal, go get your journal out for November, and let's make this a big finish for 2020. So thanks for joining me today, Sal.
Thank you for having me, Peter, as always. Thank you for joining us, lovely ladies out there.
Yes, thank you for joining us. And remember, whatever is inside you is greater than any obstacle you may face. That's your little quote for today. All right, so over and out. We shall see you on a Friday, so stay tuned for that. Friday. Okay, ladies, see you all soon. Bye.
Bye.
See you, Sal.
Bye, Peter.